Rightio, we've done the Australian delivered and the JDM. What's left? Let's find out. Rightio, this week we're going to talk about aftermarket turbos and some ways you can modify your stock turbos to get a bit more performance out of them. First off, we'll start with the P20 rear housing, which is something that came factory on the VF22 and also the VF23. This gives you a bit more top end power. So people who own VF34s, if they wanted to push that 210 kilowatt mark and try to get to about 220 kilowatts of the wheels, they would always choose to fit a P20 rear housing, just because it freed up the exhaust housing a bit and it gave you a little bit more top end. Next turbo that some people, this was probably one of the main aftermarket turbos people used to get because they were very cheap and easy to get your hands on, which were the TD05 20Gs, not to be mistaken for the 16Gs. So, the 20G just means it's a bigger rear housing. They were extremely laggy, and if you had a bigger motor, so say a 2.5 turbo motor, or a built stroked motor, so 2.1, 2.2, they would go alright, because the extra capacity helps spool the turbo up quicker. But if you were running a standard 2 litre, it tended to be just that little bit too laggy, and people would just whack them on their car thinking it was the greatest thing. But you used to kill the motor pretty quick because they'd run the same amount of boost as their TD04, so 14 pound from factory. They'd try to run that through the TD05, not realizing how much more air it's pushing into the motor. And obviously, when you put too much air in, things go bang. Another one that is, I'd say, a bit more recent is the Blouch. So the 1.5 and the 2.5. These turbos are great for modified motors. The 1.5 is great if you're got just a factory 207 short block, so one of the version 7 or newer ones that have the semi-closed deck motor. Many of my friends use it and have seen over 250 kilowatts of the wheels. The 2.5 again is just a bigger turbo, and it just ends up being just that little bit more laggy. So I mainly use the 2.5, the Blouch 2.5, with a 2.5 litre motor normally. And the next one we'll talk about is the Chinese turbos. Again, this is one that I've kind of run before, which was, I ran a Mamba TD06 20G, which was way too large. People assumed that it was because of the size my car was so laggy, but I found out the issue was the wastegate. So it just wasn't holding boost properly, and I wouldn't even see over 20 pound, which that's not why I bought a big turbo. But that turbo was, apart from that, ran fine. Chinese turbos tend to be okay as long as you understand that you are putting the risk in your hands, kind of thing. So one thing you need to watch out for, especially with the TD05 20Gs, one thing we used to run into was the oil banjo bolt they used to give you would be too large. So they used to over oil the turbo and cause you to blow out seals. One of my mates lasted 15 minutes with his TD05 20G before it blew a seal and just bellowed smoke out the exhaust. So not something you really want to do. But apart from that, the Chinese ones do work alright. You can get them cheap, but always just check them out, because if there's excessive play from when you buy it, you really don't want to run it. It's just a silly thing to do, and you can cause a lot more damage to your motor because you've cheaped out. Subaru's never really used the disco potato, which is a very common Nissan thing, but I never saw many of them. And the other thing is, there is still plenty more turbos out there, like you have the GT pumps and all that, which are great turbos. But the thing you need to remember, and I don't think I've touched on it enough in these last 3 videos, is the fact that you need to pick what you want your turbo to do. So with me, I enjoyed the top end power, hence why I always ran a bigger turbo. But you also get people who want that low end punch. So talk to your turbo. So what you need to do is talk to your tuner or whoever you're buying the part off and explain to them what you want to do with it. Whether you want to street it, whether you want to track it, or whether you just want all-out power, and altogether they'll be able to help you pick the right turbo for you. But yeah, if you've enjoyed this series, again, like, comment, share, and be sure to join us on Thursdays for our 3P Garage Live over on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube, where we talk cars and whatever comes to my mind and whatever I really feel like talking on that day. I believe next week we have, well, this week, when this video comes out, we have Rick coming in to talk about his lifted 4x4 Peanut WRX. So make sure you come and join that video. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time. See you. And one thing you always need to make sure of with turbos is when they say it's a factory location, make sure it is a factory location, so you don't end up like me with a hack job to make it fit. See you.